Hi everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to another trope recommendation video. So today I'm doing this request video because of one of you. Someone suggested they would like more unrequited love recommendation videos. So this I thought was going to be harder for me than it was because unrequited love isn't a trope that I'm a big fan of because I don't like pining for long amounts of time, okay? Specifically when a heroine does it. I just don't like that thought of women as being like that desperate and like pining after someone for years and years and years. There are a few cases where I am okay with it, but in general, I like it more if a hero is pining. But still, I don't like the pining very much. So I don't like unrequited love to have went on for a very long time. But I was able to pull together some that either like there's legitimate reason why the person hasn't noticed the other person, or there's like class differentiations that have like kept it from being a thing. So I just went off of like, you know, what was acceptable to me. Some of them, the unrequited love doesn't last a super long time, like they, you know, it gets fixed faster. But let's go ahead and dive into this, and we'll start with a couple of historicals that I have. And I'm actually going to start with a classic to just get it out of the way because it's one of my favorite, like it's like an enemies to lovers, but like unrequited love, because one of the lovers like loves really hard and the other person is just not seeing it. And for me, that is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. This is my really pretty, I think it's Macmillan. Yeah, the Macmillan Collector's Library. So here it is. North and South was a BBC miniseries, so maybe that's where you heard about it from. It has Richard Armitage plays Mr. Thornton. But this book is about a girl who, her family lived in I think she lived in the South. Hold on, let me just check. Yes, Margaret lived in the South with her family, and then because of specific religious principle reasons, her father quits his job as a minister there, and they move to the North, which is a mining town, mill town, not mining town, a milling town. So there's like textile mills and stuff like that, and her father takes on like students. He becomes a tutor and stuff like that, and one of his students is Mr. Thornton, who owns one of the mills. And when Mr. Thornton meets Margaret, he immediately has a thing for her, immediately. And Margaret is off-put by him because she actually sees him before she meets him, and she sees him beating one of his employees and screaming at them and firing them. She doesn't know that this man was caught smoking in one of the side rooms, and that could have caused a fire that could have killed everyone there. But she doesn't know that. She just sees him screaming at one of his people, and then, you know, he doesn't know that she's watching. And then when she gets introduced to him, when he comes to meet her father, to be tutored by her father, he is immediately entranced with her. Like, I love when it slips into his POV and he's just so in love with her, and he immediately is like, wow, she hates me. She's never gonna love me. And in fact, there's a quote, it's right on the back of this one, which is why I love this copy, that says, "You look as if you thought it tainted you to be loved by me." And this is a hard road. Margaret and Thornton is a hard road, but they both learn a lot of lessons. But Thornton, he is a good man at his heart. He came from nothing, and he became this, you know, very rich, wealthy, influential man. And he just doesn't, like, he doesn't take that for granted, and Margaret kind of has the wrong idea about him. So I consider this unrequited love because through the whole book, Thornton has a big heart-on for her, and Margaret just like refuses to see it and refuses to see it. But it's a really, really good book, and this is one of the few like non-steamy romances that just melts my heart every time. So check out North and South if you like classics, or if you want to read a more like calm romance, or watch the show. Like if you watch the show, the sexual tension in it is so good. It's so good. Next, I want to talk about Seduce Me at Sunrise by Lisa Kleypas. So this is book 2 in the Hathaway series. This is about Kev Merrypen and Winifred Hathaway. Sorry, her name is hard to say. And Kev is a half Irish, half Romani, and he's been basically adopted into the Hathaway's family. When he was a little boy, they found him beaten and left for dead. And so they take him in and he becomes a part of their family. And when the Hathaway parents die, he becomes like their estate manager and he helps take care of them. And he and Winifred have a connection, and they've had a connection since like the day he came to their family, but he doesn't think he's good enough for her. And also Win is very sick as a child, and until she gets older and she goes to get her health taken care of, she's weak. And Kev is worried about killing her with his magic dick. No, I'm just kidding. But a little bit. He's afraid that childbirth would kill her because that's what happened to his mother. And he's a very large man, just in stature and in build. And he's worried about that. And also he doesn't think he's good enough for her. And so it's a case of they both love each other. So I guess that's not unrequited because they both do, but it's unsatisfied because Kev just won't go for it. And so when Win goes away to get taken care of, which happened at like the very beginning of this book, she goes away with her brother Leo because Leo needs to not be an alcoholic anymore, and she needs to, needs her health to get better. And when she comes back with a possible fiance. And so Kev really needs to decide, is he going to make a move or let her go? And I just really like this. I understand his motivations for holding back, even though at the same time they're like, her entire family loves you. You're already a part of their family. You're meant to be with her. Quit being such an asshole. Kev. But I love it. I love both of the Romani men in this series. Cam and Kev, like, they really do it for me. Then I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn. I will always bring up Julia Quinn. Although recently we've had some discussions about, like, she's a really good intro author for people. Sorry, I'm going on a rant about Julia Quinn. Because she doesn't have the darkness level or the smut level that I feel like is the current wave of historical romances. That's what a lot of people are liking about historical romances right now, is that darker, sweep you up into the story thing. But Julia Quinn, there's lots of witty banter. There's fun social situations. It's one where, like, society's view is very important, where I feel like in some of the others it's still important, but we don't talk about it as much. But the Bridgertons, if you don't know, they're a family of 8 kids who are finding their love. And so Penelope is Colin's younger sister's best friend, and they are always been around each other. Penelope has had a thing for him for a very long time. This is actually like a later romance. I think Penelope is in her 30s. Like, they're both in their 30s. She's just gonna be an old maid forever. Like, her other sisters are wed, and her family loves her, but they do take a bit of advantage of her because they just assume she'll always be around. She's never gonna find a husband. So they kind of take advantage of her in that way, even though they still are a really loving family. And Colin, at one point, gets caught saying that he would never marry someone like Penelope. That's never gonna happen. And it gets said in a joke because his brothers are teasing him about her, and he just says it to get them off his back, and he really hurts Penelope's feelings. And so Penelope is just like, screw it, I can't fawn over this man any longer. I've wasted so much time dreaming about him. I need to move on. And then of course that's when Colin realizes that he might love her too. So this is Unrequited. Penelope is also a plus size heroine. She's an older heroine, but she is so loving and so kind. And I really like how the thing that really endures me to Colin the most, and why I think he's my favorite Bridgerton brother. And yeah, I think he is. I think he's my favorite Bridgerton brother. He definitely has the least amount of issues going on as some of them. But once he sees Penelope for who she is, he kind of demands that her family see it too. And I really appreciate that about him, because he's not mean to her family, but he's like, hey, you guys are really overlooking your daughter, your sister, and what she has to offer. And so I love it. I'm so excited for the TV show. I'm so nervous though, but yeah, this is an unrequited love that I really like it. Okay, then I will talk about a couple ebooks that I read. One of them is Captivated by Tessa Bailey and Eve Dangerfield. So this one's kind of interesting. This is a like darker romance, but it also is really fun. So this is about a girl. She's Australian and she wants to be a comedian, and she also writes these funny little comics. And so her boyfriend cheats on her, and she needs to decide if she's going to move back to Australia and get the veterinary job that her family wants her to get. I think it's veterinary. It's been a while since I read this book. Or stay there and make a go of being a comedian. And so the way that this is unrequited is that, so she has had a boyfriend for most of this time, but her landlord and like maintenance guy is this big like bear of a dude. He's super sexy, super growly, grumpy hero, and he has a crush on her. He has feelings for her, and he's been imagining doing things with her and things like that. And then one day he comes in to get rent, I think, from her, and she has been making naughty comics about her and her maintenance man, mostly just because she thinks he's attractive. She doesn't know anything about him as a person, but she thinks he's attractive, and so she's made these like dirty little comics, and they're actually like they're like captive comics, because that's her like kink, basically, is like someone captures her in a back alleyway and like makes her do dirty things, or someone comes into her apartment and does things to her in her bed. So she really is interested in that. And so he sees, or she like writes him a note, and on the back of it is this comic, and she realizes after she gave it to him what it is. And so they agreed to this like limited number of dates or like sexual encounters. I can't remember what it is, but it's basically like he wants to use those times to like get her to like him, because he's liked her since she's moved in there, and he has been waiting for her boyfriend to mess up so he could have a chance. So it's not a super long drawn out. There's not really any pining, so that's why I like this unrequited love. Is it's more like an unrequited like he's had feelings for her for a while, you know, been feeling attracted to her, and now she's free of her boyfriend, and she's found someone to try her fantasies with. So that's fun. Then I want to talk about For Her Own Good by Tamsin Parker. This is another one where it's like mutual unrequited love, because they don't know that either one loves them. This is an age gap. This is a daddy kink book. This is a book about a girl who she has mental health issues, and when she meets our hero, I think he's like 35 and she is 16, and by the time she's 18, he's having feelings for her and she's having feelings for him, and he makes the decision to leave because he needs her to have the mental health help that she needs, and he can no longer be that person because he's having desires for her. So he leaves. This devastates her, because not only does she have feelings back, but he is like the one who understands her the best, she feels like. And so even though he felt he needed to go for her good and his good, he like kind of left her emotionally vulnerable, and it wasn't the best. So now it's like 15 years later, because she's like 33 and he's in his like, I think he's 51 now. Her father dies, and so she's like an heiress. She has her own company, and she gets given her father's company to run when he dies. And so there's a lot of pressure happening. And when this man, he's kept an eye on her, finds out that her father died, he moves back to town, actually gets his old job back, which is the place she's still going for psychiatric care, and he doesn't take over her case. But anyway, so there's a lot of longing going back and forth between the both of them. However, like, because he straight up has tried to live a life all this time, and he's only stayed away from her because he thought he was doing the best. And I love that kind of like devotion, because here's the thing, at the end of the day, like, she's so angry and it's gonna take a lot for her to forgive him, but he was right to do that. She was 18 years old and he was 35. And as much as I like age gaps and all that stuff, like, I can still let reality slip in. And the fact is that she was a vulnerable person. She trusted him a lot. So nobody is gonna think that he didn't manipulate her. Like, nobody's gonna think that. So him leaving, giving her time to grow up, and coming back later, now people are still going to try to say that because of her mental health that he's manipulated her, but he made the right decision for that. But anyway, this one has an interesting form of unrequited love. The longing you feel between these two people, and that their kinks match up so well, and they're just so beautiful together. You just want it to work out. And it's like, can her mental state handle it? Can her businesses handle it? Like, what's gonna happen? So this was very intense. It was very good. Tamsin Parker writes amazing stories. Like, she gets me every time. Her books are so good. Another one is Scoring Off the Field by Naima Simone. So this is one of those where I wasn't 100% a fan of this one because I don't like the pining, but the moves that the heroine is making are her trying to get over the pining. And it's one of those stories where it's the same as kind of with Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, where the heroine is finally at the point where she's over it, and then the hero is like, wait, what? But I like you. And it's like, you had years. So this is about two best friends. They grew up in the foster care system together. He got adopted, she didn't, but they still stayed friends. He's a professional football player. She is his like personal assistant, and she's been in love with him for a long time. And the one other time she made a move on him, like she kissed him once, he played it off and said, I can't lose you, you're my best friend, and the women I sleep with, I don't stay with them. So typical. I hate that part of the trope, but she wants to get into social work. She has her degree in that. So she is going to move back to their home state and become a social worker and try to help kids like they were, right? Because she wants to give back. He doesn't want any other personal assistant. They agree to be friends with benefits, but it's unequally fair because she's more into him than he is into her, or so he thinks. So this was all right. I think I gave this one 3.5 stars. I listened to it on Audible Escape. I liked Naima Simone's writing. It was very sexy. It was very fun. I just think this wasn't the right book for me because, again, this trope, it's uneven ground for me. This isn't one that's my favorite always, right? So, okay, moving on. Now I want to talk about one. This is very dark. This is a dark romantic thriller, and it's called Hurt by Lydia Michaels. I finally have my own copy of this, and I'm so happy that I do, but this is a dark book. So this one, again, is a mutual unrequited love. So there's this couple. There's Callan McGregor, who used to be a killer for the mob in Scotland, basically. And then there's Emery Tanner, who they both work at this hotel. He works in the bar at the hotel. She works the front desk. And he's worked there for a few years, and they both have feelings for each other. But Callan is hiding, his past. He's not legally in this country because he had to run from what happened. He has a niece that he's taking care of because his sister isn't mentally able to do it. So there's a lot of things he's trying to keep under wraps, a lot of things he's trying to do. So even though he has some feelings for Emery, he thinks she's really cute, he thinks she's sweet, he wants something to be going on with her, he doesn't want to involve her in any of his drama or risk the situation that he's in. Until one night, Emery is brutally raped at their place of work. So he is just left for the night, and she gets attacked by a patron in the bathroom. And so he goes back to get his coat, and he finds her, and he ends up kind of taking care of her because she doesn't have any family. And it's this really painful thing for them because they feel, well, she feels specifically, because he has also been assaulted in his past. So that's the thing about this, is there is a male rape in here as well as a female rape. Like I said, this is heavy. This is a heavy one. It is a dark romantic thriller for sure. Because in the storyline, we have dual storylines where we're talking about like what happened with Callan in the past and then what's happening with Emery right now. And so she feels like their only chance together was ruined before it could start, because she doesn't know if she can let someone touch her that way, and he's so sweet and perfect in her mind, and she doesn't know if she can trust someone after what's happened to her. So it's this thing of like, they both have feelings, but he's not going to make a move if she's not ready, and she doesn't know how to make a move because of what happened. So there's a lot of hurt that goes on, but Lydia Michaels writes such like beautiful stories. But yeah, there's a lot of trigger warnings for this, so make sure you look those up. But it was also really, really good. Then I have to talk about Him by Serena Bone and Elle Kennedy. This one's shiny, so I'll just show you for a second. I talked about this in many different ones for me. This is a male-male romance. It's a friends to lovers, and this one's definitely an unrequited love, because we have Ryan Wesley is in love with his straight best friend, Jamie Cannon. So Ryan is gay, and he's known he's gay since when they were teenagers. He had feelings for Ryan, and then one night they got drunk and fooled around, and Jamie didn't think much of it. He thought it was fun. And Ryan, he decided he was gay that night and that he's in love with his friend. And so he leaves. He never talks to Jamie again because he doesn't want to pressure his friend into feelings, or is worried that of a rejection from his friend, so he can't even try. And basically stays away from him. I think it's 3 or 4 years until they run into each other at a hockey tournament. And they end up like back at the same camp that they used to work at together before. And this time Jamie's starting to have feelings, and he wants to explore them with Ryan, but Ryan's afraid that Jamie won't be into it, and then their friendship will be destroyed. So this is this is hard, and like I understand where Ryan's coming from. And yeah, Ryan is so in love with Jamie, and I love this couple. So there's Him, and then there's the sequel Us, and then there's a little sequel novella called Epic, and I love it. I love everything that Serena and Elle have done together. They have their WAG series, which is Good Boy and Stay, and I really like that one too, and we get to see Jamie and Ryan some more. So yeah, this is an unrequited male-male romance, and I really like it. And then the last one I want to talk about is the one that made me like want to try to do this trope, because when I got the request for it, I was like, ooh, I don't think I have enough unrequited love that I'm ready to talk about. And then I read this one. I read this for my Summer Fling Readathon, and that is Catching the Cowboy by Kennedy Fox, which is a duo. It's 2 best friends who write together as Kennedy Fox. And the only thing that I like laughed is I don't think it should be called Catching the Cowboy. I think it should be called Catching the Cowgirl, because this is about Adam, who he's been in love with his best friend's little sister for years. Her name is Rowan, and Rowan has recently been cheated on by her boyfriend, and she really looks at Adam as like her big brother's annoying best friend, and just gets like annoyed with him. He teases her all the time, picks at her, but he's always been saying to his friend, he's like, I'm gonna be with your sister one day. And his friend always thinks he's saying it to like egg him on and annoy him, but really Adam's serious. He's like, I'm just waiting for my opportunity. I'm buying my time. I'm going to get with your sister because I love her. And so finally, he is a little bit like obnoxious too, like he doesn't hide it. But she like doesn't want to give him a chance because she doesn't think he's serious, and it's her brother's friend, and she just doesn't want to risk it, and he just won't give up. And I love that. I loved Adam. This book is such a fairy tale as well, because it has another trope that doesn't work for me usually. And this story just made it so good. Like, it was all the perfect scenarios. Like, even when there's about to be a miscommunication in this book, and there's a miscommunication that happens for like 30 seconds, the hero is like, no, this will not happen. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. I'm not going to let miscommunications get in the way. And that, I love it so much, because miscommunication happens. It does. I say this over and over again. It's my least favorite thing to see, but it's going to happen because we're humans and we're going to miscommunicate with each other because we're not perfect. And I just love how Adam is like, that is not going to happen in my relationship. We're going to talk to each other. Let me tell you what's going on. And I love it. I want to read more by these authors. I want to, so this is the second in the series. I got sent it in the reveal book box. So it's the second in the series of standalones. But it's also part of a, like, I think they're called like the Brooks Brothers, and it's about like the older generation too. So I want to read all of those at some point. So there you go. So these are my picks for Unrequited Love, which is a trope that I'm not always a fan of, but these are the ones I think do it the best. Let me know your favorites, and yeah, I will see you next time for the next video. Bye.